Hello everyone, welcome to another Voice Essentials live hangout. It is so good to have you with us. Thanks everyone for joining in live. There's so many of you already in the chat. Hey, and if you're watching this as a replay, thanks for clicking on the video. I hope we can keep you engaged for the next 30 to 40 minutes or so. We do these live hangouts every Monday at this exact time, 2 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. But of course, that's not necessarily what the time is in your part of the world. In fact, we've just had Yuhui say that it's 50 degrees Fahrenheit in Georgia at 11 p.m. That is crispy cold, I would say. I don't know Fahrenheit very well, but I think that's cold. And it's late, so it's good to have Yuhui join in. And we've got Up-Tempo from New York. We've got Albina, who I think may be joining us for the first time live over in Spain, which is awesome. Good to have you all here. Of course, let us know where you're from in the chat section, and if you're watching the replay, in the comments section. Let us know where you watch these videos. We want you to feel very much a part of our community here at Voice Essentials, and that's exactly what we are. We are a community of singers. We support each other and really encourage each other along this journey of learning to sing. And it's my great privilege to often lead these discussions that we have with one another here on YouTube. And so that's kind of what we're going to do today as well. The subject matter of today's video that we're going to kind of kick off with is we're going to be talking about the difference, well, not the difference so much, but this labeling system that we have amongst singers worldwide of amateur and professional. I know here in Australia there's kind of a hierarchy, a kind of a strata of singer, and you know, some singers, I dare say I have used this in the past to kind of make myself feel better about myself, and that is refer to myself as a professional singer, or others might have referred to me as a professional singer, and then I hear other people just referring to themselves as, oh, I'm just an amateur singer. And so we're going to talk about that a bit today, because I'm just becoming less enamored with those terminologies, and I want to talk you through why, and perhaps present a different way of starting to think about this polarization of singer, and the fact that these labels often, sadly, are used to lift some up and push others down. And as you know, if you've spent any time with me here on the channel, I'm keen for us to be in this together and not necessarily build this hierarchy in life, and to recognize that, hey, we're all on this boat called life together, and we need to encourage each other and see the things that we have in common, not the things that separate us, even if those things are as benign as little labels like professional and amateur. We'll talk a bit more about that later. Before we get going, I do want to give a shout out to Karen. Now, many of you know Karen from Singwise channel. She is one of, along with Linda, is one of the moderators in our live chat. And Karen, I just want to say I was so pleased that you were not seriously hurt in your car crash last week. For those of you who don't know, Karen had a little bit of a bingle with her two girls. Linda, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, your two kids at least in your car, and I was so pleased, given the circumstance, to see that you are okay. And I'm sure everyone here at the Voice Essentials community, even those who didn't know you'd had a little bit of a bingle, because I saw it on Facebook, because we're friends on Facebook, I was so pleased to see that you're okay. I'm sure you're a little bit shaken, but not stirred, I would say, which is good. Excuse the corny dad joke there. Okay, moving right along. I do, just before we get going today, I do want to draw your attention to one little thing. I've been giving you some lead up to a very big video I've got going live this Wednesday. And I've been mentioning it for the last couple of weeks. The week has come. I got to tell you, I'm a little bit nervous and excited and a bit pent up. I'm going to give you a sneak peek view of the thumbnail. I'm not going to tell you anything about the video. You can go mad You can go mad in the comments section. Why don't you in the comments section, in the live chat, and in the comments if you watch this video in the next 24 hours or so, let me know, what do you think this is going to be about? And I'm not going to say anything more. This is the video that will be going live this Wednesday at 5 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Now, I am just a little excited about it. I've put a lot of production value and hired a producer and an animator, and it's a subject I'm very passionate about. That's a bit of a hint for those of you who have been following along with my channel for quite some time. I'm not going to tell you anything about it. I want you to watch it. I want you to watch it beginning to end. It is about 9 minutes in length, just under 9 minutes. But it is a subject matter that I am excited by, I'm very passionate about, in keeping with the general ethos of this channel and this community. And what I want to ask is a really big favor. Because of the amount of effort and attention I've put into this video, I want to ask you, watch it firstly, watch it to the very end, give it a thumbs up, but then importantly, I want you to help me share it. I want you to help me to spread the news of this video. The message of this video is, I think, so important for singers right across the globe. And the subject matter is one that I think has touched many people in the developed world, at least. But I know that the subject matter has also come, gone abroad beyond Western culture and Western society and found itself in other cultures and societies. I'm being very careful not to say exactly what it's going to be talking about. Look, I want you guys to, as I said, share this video, and when you see it come live on Wednesday, let me know what you think too in the comments section. Tell me whether you agree or disagree with what I've said in the video, and so I'll be really keen to get your feedback, and also to appreciate your support in helping me to share it. I'm just looking over here, and Music Lovers say, someone in the chat section might be able to help Music Lover out. Some people are starting to, to see there's some guesses going on. I'm not going to say anything. We are going to get into the rest of the show. I'm not going to tell you what it is about. I'm going to leave it to you. I cannot tell you how excited I am about this video. Nervous, because the subject matter is controversial, and I think there may be people who disagree with what I have to say about this subject. That being said, I'm fairly confident there will be a lot of people, especially those of you here on the channel, who will really resonate with the sentiment of the message that I have to give. Not saying any more. We're going to get into the rest of the show, and we'll talk when we come back after this brief 10-second interlude. We're going to be talking about amateur or professional.
Sound check. Check 1, check 2.
Yeah, so this discussion around amateur or professional, it's a delineation, if you like, a stratification of singers that I think is used worldwide, and for them, I think in general it's used as not a derogatory term. It's not used to purposefully put people down or to suggest that amateurs are bad singers and professionals are good singers, outside of the fact that we kind of do start to associate this term, amateur and professional, with good, better and best. And, and so we start to use terms like touring professional. Hey, look, I use these terms myself. And so, touring professional, well, they're the best, aren't they? And but if you're amateur, then you obviously weren't good enough to go and do anything professionally with it. And the term professional is a term that we often give to, are you being paid to do your singing? And so, but the challenge of this, and this is where I've become a little bit disenchanted with these terms of recent. And the reason being is the terms themselves have such a shortcoming. Like they don't really fully describe what's going on. So for example, is a professional singer any singer that has received any amount of money for their singing? So is a 14-year-old school student who does a bit of busking, like I used to do, outside of the tuck shop in their school and is getting some loose change from their mates so they then can jump in the back of the line of the tuck shop and actually canteen. I don't know if tuck shop is a universal term, it's canteen. And so they can get, is that a form of professional singing? Probably not. And we often, I think we get into this habit of then thinking that professional singers are the more skillful singers. But the terms really break down, because do you know what? I know so many amateur singers who are exceptional and would, if we're talking purely on a developmental level, a skill or a craft, kind of assessment of their voice, they are far and above so many professional singers that I've seen and come into contact with. And in keeping with that, at times I have professional singers, people who are getting paid and doing this thing called singing for a living, step into my studio for the first time, and technically their voice is void of any real craft, any development. They've literally just purely based on determination and energy and passion, have just opened their mouth, hoped for the best, and hey, they started getting paid for it, and so suddenly they're a professional singer. And so I'm starting to toy, and this is where I want to throw it out to you guys and for you to start thinking about, you can throw it into the comments section. Well, it's over there. I've got to be careful. Throw it into the comments section, and also, if you're watching this as a replay, make some comments about what do you think is a different way we can go about talking about this. Now, I know that here, this little channel called Voice Essentials we're not going to suddenly change the way that we talk about singing worldwide. And we're not going to change the pro and the am, the professional and an amateur, differentiation in one little, video. But I think we as a community can really grow and mature, and actually that's giving an indication as to where I want to go with this. I think we can start to think about this whole thing called singing a little bit differently. And it's, instead of thinking about it from the point of skill, because if we're just looking at it from a point of skill, we could talk about it as skilled and unskilled. And that certainly has a place. Many of you are only just starting your journey as singers, and you're using the Voice Essentials community to encourage you along that journey. And at the moment, in many areas and aspects of your voice, you are unskilled. But I can tell you, as a person that's been professionally singing for 25 years, I have areas in my vocal development where I too am unskilled. So at what point would we say that I'm now skilled as a singer if I still have areas that I'm unskilled? And so skilled and unskilled has a place. I've been starting to talk about this differentiation between singers more so as a spectrum of maturity. And thinking about it from more of an artistry point of view, a craftsman's point of view, as opposed to just purely skill or just purely whether you get paid or not. and starting to think about it as, am I being a mature artist, or am I being an immature artist? Am I being a mature singer, or am I being an immature singer? An immature singer is someone who just goes, oh, this technique stuff, you don't need to do any of that. You just need to, get up there and give it a wail and you'll be right, Jack. That will get you so far, and some people have an innate giftedness towards this thing called singing, but mark my words, the storms will come, and those storms come in the form of poor health, lack of sleep, pressures domestically at home, whether it be through relationship or whether it be money concerns. And when those pressures come, when those storms of life come, if you haven't established a really sure foundation technically for your voice, then your voice is at really high risk of wear and tear that could develop into damage and vocal disorder. I'm not saying it will. I'm saying it is at heightened risk of doing so. So yeah, sure, you can just throw caution to the wind and open your mouth and hope for the best, and or you can be a mature singer and really intentionally go about developing your voice, crafting your voice, not only in your technical skill, but as a performer and in the manner that you develop your overall concept, your holistic, it's more of a holistic approach to this thing called singing. And it doesn't matter then whether you're being paid to do it or not paid to do it. I dare say many of us here on the channel, and I know I have, I've come into contact with many immature professional singers. So they're being paid to do it, but their level of maturity holistically around what they do is quite questionable. Equally, I've met so many what we would historically have called an amateur singer who I have learnt so much from holistically, in what they bring to the table, in their whole person, their whole level of artistry. I am more keen these days to be given to becoming a mature singer. Whether I get paid or not is kind of irrelevant. We all like to get paid for doing this thing called singing, but it brings its own level of pressure and stress. But it's about, I want to be a mature singer, and I know many of you here at the channel are seeking the same thing. You're seeking the opportunity to be mature. I just want to, as we continue, I'm just going to check our feed, and I think we're doing okay. Yes. I'm just looking over here to make sure. I've just seen Karen's made a really interesting comment here. To me, a professional is someone who gets paid enough to make ends meet. A semi-professional, emerging professional is someone who gets paid to perform but part-time. Yeah, and these are not wrong ways of describing it, Karen. They're very historically very correct ways of describing it. I'm just keen for us to step beyond the money aspect of it, so that for those of you who are a part of this channel who feel like, hey, I'm not here to make money. I'm not going to ever make money. I had a new student in the studio this morning, and she's a pharmacist. Her concern was, well, I like being a pharmacist. I only want to be a pharmacist. Are you happy to teach people who are, not going to be paid they don't want to be a paid singer? Yeah, I'm completely cool with that. And you can become and develop into a really high-end singer, a highly skilled singer, actually to all accounts and purposes, someone who is professional, who's not being paid. And so I just wanted to throw that out to you. I'm always keen to tear down these, these cultural constructs that cause us to cause us to push certain people aside and say, look, you don't measure up for whatever reason. And I think the term amateur and professional is a rather benign term. I don't think anyone, for the most part, is using it in a destructive manner, purposefully, with malice. But I think even still, we can learn to use different terms. I don't know, maybe you think I'm just being a little bit too PC, a little bit too, what does PC stand for? Someone remind me of what PC stands for. You'll notice in these live hangouts, everyone, that because I'm thinking on the fly here, often I'll say something, go, what was that? Like, for example, last week I said codswash, and actually what I meant to say was codswallop, and I got corrected in the comments section, which quite correctly, because it is codswallop, it's not codswash, and I always get, politically correct is the PC term. Maybe you think I'm just being politically correct. I don't know. I just think there's something in that for us to really chew on this week and to think about and maybe to self-examine. Have I been using that term? And by I mean you, and by you I mean us, we. Have we been using that term in a manner that has been squashing some and elevating others? Let's elevate everyone, and if that means just changing our terminology a little bit, maybe that's a good thing. Anyway, I wanted to throw that out to you. I'll be keen to read your comments in a section and in a session, in a moment, and then we're going to answer your questions. So make sure you're asking your questions now live. I forgot to tell you all at the beginning to ask your questions. So make sure you ask your questions now, because after this, we're going to come back and we're going to start talking about your questions and answers. And dearie me, my brain is all over the shop today. Okay, so let's jump in here and have a look at our questions. Jumping in and jumping right back up the top here. So good to have, some people here from South Korea. That's awesome. K-pop is such a big thing, isn't it, these days? So jumping down, Fabricio says they'd say that they're amateur. And that's because it just started learning a year. Well, that, in my books, would mean you're a beginner. I know plenty of people that never start learning and are being paid. So that just means you're a beginner singer. And I know lots of professional singers who are beginner singers. Yahoo is just wishing Jodie well. She's doing well, everyone. Thank you for your ongoing support and love in that regard. Coming down here, it's good to have Kathleen Hudson jumping in. Thank you, Kathleen. Good to have you with us. And CC Music from, is NV Navaska? Am I right? Well, I wonder what NV stands for. I'd have to go over and look that up. Sorry, I'm not completely familiar with all of the states in the US. There's 50 odd of them, isn't there? Okay, coming down here, Albina is saying, I consider I improve my singing skills, meanwhile I promote my music. Absolutely. Still hard to hear myself on videos from live concerts. Well, that can take some time, Albina, and that's a by reason of use kind of thing. And it is important. I think an immature singer will camp there and almost wear their disconnection with their own voice when they hear their own voice back. They'll almost wear it as a bit of a badge. And I think there's some immaturity around that, and I think it allows the person to even draw more attention to themselves, so that when they say, oh yeah, I don't like the sound of my own voice, it has the ring of a false humility. And I'm not saying that's what you're saying. I'm saying that if you stay there, if you don't mature through that, every new singer starts there, but you need to mature through that as a part of your developmental process. Don't allow yourself to camp and live there, because it just becomes a little bit of false humility if you do. Coming down. Oh, and just let you know, I got a few comments last week that I hadn't answered people's questions. Everyone, being male, I'm scanning and I'm not scanning well. And so if I don't answer your question, you can always leave it in the comments section later when the video is archived and just becomes a normal video within the channel. You can do that. Equally, and I'm not trying to upsell you to this, but equally, if you absolutely must have your question answered, you can always use a thing called the super chat. And if you go down right to the bottom, if you can see, if I can point just down here, right at the very bottom, see this little icon here. If you click on that, that's called a super chat. And you can spend a little bit of dollar to actually have your question become highlighted, and it's one sure way to get your question answered. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just saying if you're absolutely desperate to have your question answered today, then certainly you can do that. But of course, we do this every Monday, right? So every Monday, 2 p.m., the opportunity to have your questions answered comes up. So just wanted to highlight that for those of you who were a little bit upset last week that your question didn't get answered. Yes, everyone, Bree, is glad that Karen is okay. And Bree said she's had a car accident as well. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're okay too. Linda, the suspense is killing you. I know, right? The suspense around this video, I cannot tell you. I am super excited. Put down in the comments section what you think it's going to be about. I'm not going to give that away, but you guys can, jump in and decide whether you know what it's going to be. Emerging professional, avocational, that's a good one from Karen. Music lover is teaching on his channel. Great. His or her, I don't know. Music. I'm so happy about this live. I'm in high school and just recently got back into music theatre, and I feel super novice compared to the people who have been in choir and stuff like that. Yeah, up-tempo, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's important to think of ourselves with somber judgment. We certainly don't want to think of ourselves more highly than we ought, but equally it's important to not, self-sabotage our development with really poor labeling and taking on poor constructs, because just because someone's had more experience doesn't mean that that's been good experience. For example, you can do something for 20 years but do it incorrectly for 20 years as well. And so it's a matter of being able to identify, okay, am I doing this correctly? Is there a better way? And we're always on this channel, always searching for better ways to do this thing called singing. Simona is saying, I'm an amateur, but then again, I wonder what the criteria for professional is. Can't wait to hear what you have in store. Well, I hope I've given you what I had in store, Simona. Coming down here, hoping to find some questions, everyone, so I can answer your questions. Yes, and that's the thing, isn't it, Karen? As Music Lover has said, I don't think that professional necessarily always means highly skilled. And that's, I guess, what I'm kind of getting at, because the general public, I think, do actually associate the word professional with highly skilled. And that's kind of where I get a little bit, again, I'm disenchanted, there it is, I knew it would come, disenchanted with this concept of professional and amateur, because it's come to mean for many in the general public something that I think we in the industry don't think of it as being. And so, I don't know, sometimes it's good to reassess these terms. Coming down, wanting to come down here, and Angie G, I'm a singer flat out. I teach 2 girls weekly and get paid, but I'm always learning and love sharing the magic along the way. Yeah, Angie, that's, what we're doing here, is sharing the magic. Okay, coming down. NV is Nevada. What did I say? Nevaska. It's not even a state. Nevaska. What am I trying to say? I have no idea. Nevaska? Nevada? Nebraska. Is that a state? I don't know. Tell me. Help this poor Aussie out. I know all of the states in Australia. Okay. Jesus is from North Carolina. Good to have you amongst us. That's good. And Jesus has asked, and I wonder, Jesus, if you have your name pronounced Yesu, or I wonder if that's how we pronounce your name correctly. How do I not squeeze the high notes? Great question. Often squeezing high notes comes about because the way you've approached those notes is from a really high built-up pressure. Yeah, and so if you've got really high pressure, so as your voice is ascending through the scale, and as the voice is getting higher and higher, and the body is going more, and so you end up pushing more air pressure, and the larynx, in trying to manage that amount of air, starts to contract and try to brace itself against that increased pressure that is no longer appropriate for the type of phonation, the type of note that is being sung. One of the biggest challenges, especially for beginner singers, is resisting that temptation to push more and to actually reduce that sense of air pressure as you go up. I often talk about penultimate notes. Many people become fixated on that single top note when in fact it's not the single top note that they need to be concerned about. It's the penultimate notes. It's the preceding notes up to that top apex note. The illustration I often use is a pole vaulter. They're running in with their pole vault. I've heard pole vaulters talk about they kind of have a real sense of whether they're going to get over the top of that bar at the meters in the air, not at the apex point, but in the lead up to and in the spring up to the bar, because it's actually in their run up and in their technique in the lead up to that top bar that will determine, hey, am I going to get over this? And it's exactly the same with our notes. If you're struggling with top notes, have a look at how you're doing your lead up melody. What is happening in the preceding notes? It's going to be in air pressure, it's going to be in registration, it's going to be in tone. There may well be some vowel modification required. It's all in how you do your lead in to the top note. I hope that's helpful, Jesus. Okay. So Up-Tempo's asking, I'm currently an alto, however, in some cases I'm able to sing as a mezzo. Is there any way to get to being a mezzo? Well, Up-Tempo, not unless we... there would be a way of getting you to become an alto if you're a mezzo. I would not recommend this, and it would simply be in you taking doing some hormone therapy, taking some testosterone to grow the larynx a little bit more, to give it a little bit more depth, and that would take it down to an alto. Now that would be an inexact science. Inexact. I feel like today my tongue is all over the shop. It's not something I would be recommending you do, and in fact I'd be surprised if you could find a doctor on the planet who would do it for you. And I'm kind of being a little bit frivolous and facetious in suggesting so. The point I'm making is you can't change your anatomy outside of really radical hormonal therapy or other significant changes to the structure of your larynx. Now, when you talk about saying I'm currently an alto, however, in some cases I'm able to sing as mezzo, that would suggest to me that there are some tonal things that you are doing with your voice that gives you the colouring of mezzo at times, which means you're able to mould and model your sound in accordance to what the artistic outcome is that you're searching for. Can I just say, everyone, and I'm on the channel here at Voice Essentials, and I'd be surprised if Karen's not the same, that you guys, you got to stop getting fixated on your voice classification. In classical singing, it is an absolute must that you know what your voice classification is, because it's important, especially if you're doing choral work, because you're being split into sections. You need to know, what is my anatomy going to be capable of singing? And if you're doing music theatre, then again, you're going to be being split into parts. You need to know what role to go for. And it's a thing, right? In classical voice, it's a thing. In contemporary voice, I mean, we have contemporary choirs and we have contemporary music theatre, completely acknowledged. But do you know what? We got to get out of this thing with voice classification in contemporary voice. It has its place, and it is important that you understand your own anatomy and your own physiology and your own Fach, F-A-C-H. Now, I've got a whole other video about this. You can go and check it out, and I encourage you to do that. But in contemporary voice, we are so keen and eager to see you embrace your individuality, the uniqueness of your sound. If you are different, radically different to everyone else, great! You should be celebrating that uniqueness. And, in life, there's always a bell curve, isn't there? The vast majority of us sit in the center. But if you have a voice that is really unusual and different and highly identifiable, but equally is sustainable and skilled and crafted, wow, you've got something special that you need to embrace that uniqueness. And so be very careful. There are people, this has been part of our discussion today, there are people all around you who are going to want to pigeonhole you, who want to box you in. You've got to resist the temptation to give in to those, all-encompassing classifications. Acknowledge them and then work outside them. In many respects, the rules are there to be broken in contemporary voice. There are no wrongs or rights. There's only good, better, or best. And I want you to go looking for the best for your voice. And part of that, up-tempo, is in you knowing to not box yourself in. Got a little passionate there. Sorry, everyone. Hope that wasn't offensive to anyone. Okay, Nebraska is a state. Thank you, Yahui. Nebraska. I said Nebraska. I make myself laugh. My kids would be kicking themselves right now. Matt is saying, I am so amateur. Well, Matt, that's okay for you to say that you're amateur, as long as you understand why you're doing that and that you're not using that to self-sabotage or to be, incorrectly humble about what you're saying. Newsflash, my mum and I actually agreed on a course of action for my singing. Woo! Good to hear, Matt. Good to hear. I don't know what that course of action might be, Matt, but I am glad to hear for you that you've got some unity in your household, and that's good. Karen's said as much. Jesus. Oh, thank you. Jesus. That's cool. Thank you for jumping in and letting me know. I will do my best in future, Jesus. If you can join us here every Monday, what possibly in your part of the world is still Sunday, you can. I'll do my best to remember that, and don't hesitate to remind me if I forget. We're going to give Angie the last question, XP Nova's just jumped in as well, but I'm going to give the last question for today to Angie G. You've discussed Sinatra using his naturally occurring range super skillfully. Is there a female example you think of this in this way too? Oh, Angie, that is a great question, and you've put me on the spot. Who do I go to as having had a relatively limited range in regards to Now, I'm about to say names, having not researched this and done some homework. And so if I say a name and you can immediately go, that's a load of garbage, please forgive me, because I'm saying this off the top of my head and I'm just having songs come to mind that may not represent the artist as a whole. I'm immediately going to Bette Midler. Is that... jump in and let me know whether that would be a good example of a singer who sits within a relatively confined range, but is, if you've ever seen her perform, I mean, wow, right? And the range that I'm thinking of the song The Rose, which is rather limited in range, and I often give it to beginner singers. It was a song written for the movie called The Rose, about the life of Janis Joplin. And that song really stands out to me as being, rather contained in range, but yet is highly expressive and wonderfully expansive. Help me out, everyone, in the comments section. I need some other suggestions for Angie. Who else? I mean, I think you'd be headed back to the 50s and 60s, into the 70s, when we look for singers that worked within a range of about an octave and a half. Because once you get to the 80s and the 90s, we have ones like Mariah Carey, Celine Dion, Whitney Houston as female examples, really starting to showcase extreme range use, and it became a thing. And so those with less extreme range were not so much of a thing anymore. Linda's saying Bette Midler is a fair call. Yeah, that's I wonder whether Karen Carpenter, who I love. If you've watched any of my videos, I've talked about how much I love Karen. Janis Ian, that name I don't. Janis Joplin. Janis Joplin is the name I was mentioning before, but is that what or are you offering Janis Ian? I don't know that. Tracy Chapman is another good example, yeah. So this idea of Karen Carpenter, what do you think of that? Karen had this amazing tone. I mean, dearie me, that was just extraordinary. But I don't recall her songs being overly extensive in their range. Anywho, there you go, Angie. That's, there's some options, some ideas. I hope that helps you out as you're thinking about it. And if you're looking for a song that's limited in range for female, go to The Rose. The song The Rose, I think you'll find that quite helpful. And Samuel's jumped in. He's in caps. I need your help. Okay, Samuel, I do actually have a few more minutes. I'm going to answer your question, and then we're going to call it a day. I need you... Karen's just confirming, that the 50s and the 60s are typically that don't need a lot of range, and that's certainly the case. Oh, were you, Karen? Named after Karen Carpenter. That's awesome. Lucky you. She was awesome. Joni Mitchell's another one. Yeah, possibly. Selena Gomez. Okay, thanks, everyone. This is good. You guys keep going there. I'm going to come back to Samuel's question here. I need your help. I saw your video about singing with silent reflux and how to treat it. But how did you sing with it while you had it? I sing every weekend and it's so hard to warm up and not crack. Yeah, Samuel. Wow, dude. I get it. Yeah. I really get, the challenge that that silent reflux, singer's reflux, LPR, laryngopharyngeal reflux, can present to people. And I've really struggled with it, and at the moment I'm actually trying to get a handle on mine. Mine's actually presenting at the moment more as GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disorder, as opposed to LPR, which is more expressed up here. It sounds like you're struggling with LPR. Firstly, you've got to manage it. Look, you've watched the video, but so some of this is revision. You've got to manage it through reflux. Through diet. Please attend to your diet first. Get to learn your triggers. My triggers, hot spicy foods, because I love them. In fact, it was only on the weekend that Jody, my wife, said to me, "Oh, you should have, some of the spicy sauce on that dinner." I said, "Oh, I really, really, really want to, but my reflux is, flaring up at the moment. I just can't." Obviously, Scotch. I do enjoy a nip of Scotch, and so that's got any spirit, alcohol spirit is going to be a challenge. Get to know your triggers, and eliminate them. At when necessary from your diet. So you go to diet first, but then there are times when you are going to need the extra assistance of medication. Now, it is not for me to prescribe to you or tell you. You need to go to your general practitioner, your family doctor, talk to them about your symptoms, and ask them to help you in treating it with medicinal, assistance. I want to state very clearly, and I don't know whether I stated clearly in the video, but the idea is not to have you on medication for the rest of your life. Unfortunately, there are some people who suffer from reflux significantly enough that will be the case. It would be my hope for you that would not be the case, that once you get the reflux under control and settle it back down, that managing it through better diet and better food and beverage choice, you're able to manage it just by that. But sometimes to get it under control, to get a handle on it and put a lid on it, Samuel, you're going to have to go and see your doctor and get on top of it, medication. Now, if the medication is not cutting it, then you are going to have to probably go the next step and go and see a gastroenterologist and have an endoscopy where they actually stick a camera down your throat, and they do this. A mate of mine, actually my best mate, had this done while he was awake. I'm going to be having it done later in the year. I will not be doing it while I'm awake. Can I tell you, I will be knocked out under general, and they put you in a half knocked out state. I have a gag reflex like nobody's business. My dentist does not like me very much because I gag at the slightest bit of gunk. So I'll be going to an having an endoscopy to actually have a look. Have I got any ulcers? Is there any ulceration? Have I got any polyps? Is there anything that I need to attend to that the medication for whatever reason is not cutting it? And that may be something that's in your future, Samuel, I don't know. Your first step is going to be to go and see your doctor, have the discussion, and allow them to direct your care. Be sure when you talk to your doctor, make sure you mention to them, hey, look, I'm a singer. This is having a significant impact on my voice. I am getting significant laryngeal swelling from this, and it is having, and I'm challenged. So make sure you tell them all those things. There is kind of no shortcut to this. You gotta. But the quicker you get on to starting this little journey, the better, and you'll get better at managing it. So Samuel, I can't help you beyond that. I've had to cancel. I remember having to cancel one gig because my LPR had just taken off. It was off the charts, and so there you go, Samuel. I hope that's helpful. I don't know that you would have done the endoscopy through. That might have been a video stroboscopy for your vocal folds, XP Nova. An endoscopy, to my knowledge, I could be wrong, is through the mouth, but nonetheless, there you go. Lee, good to have you join us from South Africa. You've joined us at the end because I'm about to finish, but I do hope you can join again with us next Monday. We do these every week, yeah? Every week, 2 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So check your clock because right now it's 10 to 3 wherever I am. So we start 50 minutes ago every Monday, yeah? Wherever you are, or Sunday, wherever you are in the world. And before we go also, let me just remind you, look out for this thumbnail. Yeah, this Wednesday, this goes live. Guys, if I might humbly ask you that please share it. I mean, only share it if you feel comfortable to, if you feel confident and in the message that it brings. There is some controversy, just putting it out there. There is some controversy in the video, but I would be so thankful to you if you help me to share it. So that'll go live on Wednesday. I always have a new video that goes, a pre-record video, it goes live on Wednesday. And then I have another one, the Pit Stop series that goes live on Friday. I hope you guys are enjoying the Pit Stop series. That, less than 2 minute, really quick little message of encouragement and motivation to keep you going. I hope you guys are enjoying that series as much as I'm enjoying putting them together for you. So it is 3 videos every week here at Voice Essentials channel. If this is the first time you've ever watched one of my videos, thanks so much for joining in. We would love to have you join our ever-growing community of people, singers from across the globe who just want to, sing loud and proud, just like you. We're a fantastic community here. And I am so proud to be a part of the Voice Essentials community, as I hope you will be. And I look forward to seeing you in the next Voice Essentials video. So make sure you subscribe, hit the white bell icon, because that's the only way that you're going to find out about my videos going live. And I look forward to seeing you in the next Voice Essentials video. I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.